We are back on MorningLine. Thanks for joining us. Davidson County Sheriff Daron Hall with us. Our final segment with him, 737-7587. We've got Mark waited through the break. So we'll go to the next caller up is Mark. Good morning, Mark. Hi, Mark. Is he there? He had hung up and then he came back. I'll put him on hold and we'll see if we get back. I wanted to ask you this because I know kind of how you feel about it, and I'm, as usual, I don't agree with everything he says.
No, come on.
But I do agree with almost everything. And overnight,
maybe next year, maybe.
The fine folks at the Metro Nashville International Airport arrested a gentleman who had several wrapped packages, and the dogs hit on it, and it was marijuana.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. So they busted him, and it was a larger amount of marijuana, and marijuana does remain illegal in the state of Tennessee. Thus, he will be transported to your facility, I assume, this morning to be processed. I'm just wondering, how many of him are there incarcerated with you for marijuana offenses, and your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so he may have, I haven't looked into this at all, but he may have boarded the plane legally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in the state maybe where he left. And
it's still illegal to do it.
See, I can see it. I think people do this, maybe aren't even aware, and there are people this clueless out there. Maybe he was flying from Colorado. They were wrapped up as Christmas gifts. Now, maybe that was to hide them, but come on, you know they're going to be smelled. And he figures, oh, I'm going to give some marijuana because I bought it legally here in Colorado and my buddy's in Tennessee. And he gets on the plane. I don't know what the situation. He flies here. Right. And, of course, the drug dogs hit on those bags that are wrapped like packages, and boom, he's busted.
Yeah, and let me clear.
Okay, so you were saying.
I'm not for this. I mean, meaning I wouldn't do it. I don't use it. That's not my thing. That's not what I'm saying. But let's just be honest. So those drug dogs and the officers that made the arrest, just to make the arrest, walked right by, I don't know, 4 or 5 bars in the airport that are selling what is going to influence you, and it is much more addictive and is much more likely to cause you to behave in a negative way. I'm talking about drive and assaultive and aggression than this drug. So my problem with this whole thing is it's hypocritical that we look and say that's a crime while we walk by people who are saddled up to a bar ordering shot after shot of drinks, who are much more likely to cause a person to be harmed. So we're not going to do this, but if you were to take that drug away and say we're going to be a pure society, for whatever that means, and you're going to quit pumping out opioids out of doctors' offices that are killing many more people than marijuana, then I could say, okay, then we're going to be a pure society. If we're not going to be a pure society, and if you look at how many people died from opioid, which is heroin, handed out in a bottle in every house in this town, probably could be, and you're going to focus on some green leafy substance which has its own effects on you, no doubt about it, I don't get it. We sell tobacco that's going to kill you from cancer. We sell alcohol at any level you want to buy it. And my point is, it's not going to help us to legalize it.
Right. Some people are going to say, well, why legalize another vice, Sheriff? I mean, right. You're not wrong, but hey, you just pointed out we've got too much already out there. Why legalize this too? And I know you're not advocating that, but
and I get frustrated because when you look at the deaths caused by opioids, right, and it's basically legal the way it works. Then we're looking at this where, by all means, again, I'm not a smoker. I can't stand it. Nothing about it, and I can't stand to be around. I've never smoked a cigarette in my life. I can't stand it. Okay, it's sold everywhere. Now, thank God it's not in offices anymore, but it's legal to sell. And it's legal to go buy pure alcohol. You can buy moonshine today.
Everclear, whatever.
Yeah, you can go. And so my point is, those aren't great for you, but you make a choice. And marijuana, to me, and it will be legalized in the next however many years. I'm not pushing to do that. I'm frustrated at how this is a news story that we arrested some guy with marijuana.
I almost downplay him. Now here, let me just say, I do not begrudge the officers for doing their job.
They do the job, right.
The dog hit on it. It is the law. These officers are doing their job, so I have no qualms with them. The bigger picture that's a frustration for me is that you guys do have to deal and process it with him. He had a larger amount. There are other people that get arrested for much smaller amounts. I'm just wondering, from a taxpayer's point of view, if all of a sudden marijuana, at least of a certain level in Tennessee, was legal, would it put less of a burden on your staff and potentially save taxpayers dollars? And I'm not saying you legalize something dangerous to save money, but I'm just saying, as he pointed out, it's nowhere near as dangerous. I mean, there's no debate here as opioids, and it's equally as dangerous, and less so probably in the minds of many than alcohol. So don't give me any crap about that. Those are both more serious. So would it save taxpayer money?
Yeah, so here's what I would say, and I did this years ago, looked into it. What marijuana does is cause people to violate a lot of conditions. I just noticed where the Major League Baseball is no longer going to
Probation
test for it.
violations.
Right, probation. So Major League Baseball, my understanding is no longer going to test for marijuana. Okay, and the reason, and my point here is, if you look at people who are on parole, probation, or God forbid they're in a job today and they lose their job because they test positive for marijuana, whatever those things are, that's where the compounding effect of money is. Those people come to jail, but if you ask me to go look and see how many people were booked yesterday on marijuana, that itself is fairly low number.
Small.
The effects of what is causing the arrest is very high.
Okay, so to put it into perspective for the viewer would be, let's just say someone is serving time for a robbery, not a burglary charge. He's caught stealing something from someone's home, and he's doing 1129, and then because it's a more minor first-time offense, he gets out on probation. All right, he knew he made a mistake. He was desperate that day. He's not going to get in trouble again. Stealing, okay, non-violent, and part of his probation requirement is you can't be doing marijuana or drink or something like that. His probation officer tests him because he took a couple hits off a joint, which is wrong, but he does.
Which was 2 weeks ago.
And then all of a sudden, this guy who was released on probation isn't committing another serious crime, takes a couple puffs of pot, he violates his probation, and he's locked up again.
And here's my point. If he's driving that way, arrest him. I'm all for it. If he is home or God knows where, he comes to work, he's tested, or he goes to his probation officer, he's tested. The fact is, I'm not saying that's good for you. I'm saying that results in him being rearrested, losing a job that he's had for 3 weeks because he just gotten out. He goes back to jail for a substance that doesn't have the evidence that these other ones that we were selling over the counter everywhere. Right? I mean, there's no evidence that it will. And my problem is not that it's a good thing. There are plenty of things that aren't good that we do, but I just find it as a waste of energy for law enforcement.
Give me a little insight on this, because again, a thing I admire about you is you're not afraid to go against the flow sometimes with some of your colleagues. And the fact is, in the state of Tennessee, and you know, you and I are both good friends with former Wilson County Sheriff Terry Ash, who's now with Homeland Security, and prior to that was head of the Sheriff's Association. And I've gotten into it with him before, and he says, you know, law enforcement still is against the idea of even legalizing medical marijuana, I believe, but I know they're against legalizing recreational marijuana. And I keep going, well, what's the big stumbling block here? You can't even tell the difference between it and hemp. And one of the things he does say to me that makes a little sense is, Nick, it's still technically illegal at the federal level. So, you know, we're getting mixed signals and we don't know what to do. So we're just going to keep it illegal right now because it is at the federal level. But would you be in favor if they uniformed it, making it legal? And I still get the sense from law enforcement that they say, no, it's going to kill you. We're not going to let you have it. And every time I hear it, I'm like...
So I've wasted more hours of my life I can't get back by talking to Terry Ash on the phone at night. and
I respect the man a lot. I like him a lot.
I do too. And his only point that I agree with is the federal level needs to fix it first, because it is backwards to try to tinker with it down here. And he's right. The problem is the Terry Ashes of the world, and I'm talking about what he used to be, the state execs, need to move the ball themselves nationally. I mean, right now, the state of Oklahoma that's a red state. It just voted, if not recreational, I know medical. It is going to happen. And where law enforcement is failing its own discipline here is, I believe law enforcement needs to say, not pat everybody on the back. I don't think we should do that. But we've learned to say, instead of ignoring and putting our head in the sand about drunk driving, we work with groups like MAD, and we work with programs to try to improve and look at the locks now on driving DUI issues. The biggest challenge in law enforcement is there's no real tests today. If I pulled you over and you had been smoking marijuana, that I can determine your level of intoxication.
Right. But no, the TBI now is spending all this time, and they're in that same group, trying to come up with some way for law enforcement to be able to test, and if nothing else, to tell the difference between marijuana and hemp, which I think they're getting the hang of, but drug dogs still hit on both. And it's like, gosh, I want them spending time going after the real hardened criminals and the real serious drugs, not cracking down on marijuana. I'm sorry. That's just, it's me.
So while we debate CBD and hemp and marijuana, we're selling beer, wine, and liquor.
And we're prescribing opioids till the cows come.
Right. And why we care, I don't care what that is. What I care is, are you too under the influence to be driving of whatever the substance is? And if I
Including
can
marijuana.
test that, you need to be arrested. You should never put people in harm. If you are at home on your off days or going doing what you're doing, and listen, Major League Baseball, not that this is a big, but has just said, look, we are no longer going to test for that. Most states, if you're honest about it, do not even really have a way to know what you really have in your car, and the expense to test it is not worth the process.
As we wrap things up here, I'm glad you mentioned Major League Baseball, because one reason for that, and NFL is looking at that as well. A heck of a lot of these athletes now are finding that they're getting relief from the injuries they suffer on the field from marijuana at the expense of not having to take opioids anymore.
That's right.
And they have all said, my gosh, if I can get off those dang pills they keep pumping me on, and a little marijuana takes away my aches and pains, that's where I'm going. And so I think they're beginning. The unions are realizing this, and the NFL and Roger Goodell are realizing this, and it's better for everyone. That's where it's going to go. Listen, as we wrap things up, real quick.
Real quick.
Go for it.
Tough year, right? We lost Marie, Charlie Cardwell, Larry Britton, Kerry Gentry this week.
Madine
Eberling. Larry Keaton, Johnny Hobbs, lost my father in March.
Yes, your father as well.
It's been, I was just sitting here, someone's name, but we lost Larry Britton at this place, Madine, I wrote their names down. I thought, tell everybody you love them. It's life's moving.
You did lose your father. And hey, listen,
day.
Sheriff, I want to just thank you again. You've been coming on for several years here, and even when you're no longer sheriff someday and you're U.S. Senator or something, I still want you to come on the show. But I personally really value just knowing you. I know we don't spend time outside of work much, but I really do. You're a good man, and the city's lucky to have you, and I really value your friendship. And I really appreciate you coming on.
Well, appreciate you very much. Happy holidays to you.
Happy holidays to you and your family and your whole crew over there, including Carla. I love her. Sheriff, we'll see you in the new year.
Take care.
Take a break. I'll be back with a programming note right after this.